Where does Chainsaw Man head to after Chapter 208? This is a question we need to face together as a community, because in one chapter, Fujimoto essentially took out all of our theories for how we think Chainsaw Man as a whole was going to just end. Like, in the entire series. The concept of turning Dingji into a weapon, Assa Yoru dying, the threat of the falling devil, and Assa effectively confessing her love to Dingji. So these are all things that many of us thought would happen in part 3 or at the conclusion of the series, but in just 2 chapters, they all occurred in some form or fashion. So we need to talk about this. Where is Chainsaw Man going, and what is left? Because something doesn't smell right. This entire arc so far has been as sus as a Fumiko Mifune smirk. If you enjoy what I do here, before you go, let's get Bento to 11,000 subscribers, get this video to 250 likes, and 10 new subs. So, a little bit of a brief refresher. In Chapter 207, as Dingji succumbs to the powers of the falling devil as he falls upwards, Asa Mitaka, who at this point succumbed herself to the powers of Yoru and gave up, defied her worst half and risked it all by using Yoru's children to blow up the building in a moment that could have literally killed them both. She then jumps up and grabs onto Dingji to plead with him to snap out of it. Specifically, she tells Dingji she will always be there to protect him and that they can get through this trauma together with the two of them. This works, but in the fall, Asa Yoru's leg is injured and thus Dingji, with his girlfriends in tow, makes it to a back alley home where falling bombards the place, leading to Yoru nearly using Dingji as a weapon until she changes her mind, which then leads to her being pierced through the skull via her own weapon. Now, outside of myself needing an emotional support circle right about now, we have to get this first talking point out of the way because it is so important. Asa regained her control. Asa has shown that she is powerful enough to overcome Yoru at really any given moment. This is something we've worried about for quite a while, especially ever since the end of the Aging Devil arc, where Asa more and more subside into her own consciousness to let Yoru really take over. This was due to multiple reasons, but mainly the fact that Asa feels she wasn't good enough to protect Dingji, and because Yoru's plan is something that is so vile and so evil that she can't even say it without choking. I think we can assume what this was now, but we will get to that in just a moment. The main point, however, is that Asa was presented as someone who decided it was better to just fade away than it was to deal with her problems head on. This is due to her repeated traumatic tripping episodes that over time led her to believe that she was the problem. While this is so very much untrue, Asa doesn't have the same frame of reference as we do and as the other characters do in the series. Her perspective, she is someone who can't back it up or cash in checks when she needs to the most. In other words, she's a girl failure. So, obviously, when someone fails a lot, this gets discouraging, and so Asa has gotten very discouraged and depressed over these incidents that keep piling up. But the reality of it is that she is just a klutz who is missing an important support circle or someone to affirm her when she is down. Like me, I need a support circle after 208, please. We see that with Mama Mitaka. She was happy and stable, but once she sacrificed herself, that entire support structure was gone, and she was left alone. And the reason for her death didn't help as she put it all on her shoulders and blamed her mother's death on herself. This is why Dingji is so important to Asa, because by showing his support in the Falling Devil arc, she realizes that is the thing she was missing the entire time. Someone to back up and support her to keep her stable. Dingji, like Mama Mitaka, is surprisingly nurturing. No doubt something he picked up by living with Aki in power, but as well with him becoming a father by raising the reincarnation of his dead boss who tried to groom him, Nayuta. Oh, we love Nayuta. Oh, we love Nayuta. And so, this is where we blur the lines into the confession scene. This may be the most important Asa Mitaka moment, because it kills two of our theories, at least my theories, on what would be the climax of the series in the middle of the series. We thought that Asa would agonize in turmoil over Yoru and Dingji for much longer than this, but in reality, it only took a couple of months for her to get to this point. But once again, this is all due to Dingji being in danger. Asa doesn't want to fail him like she failed Mama Mitaka, Krambin, or Yuko. She wants Dingji to be saved by her. It's quite interesting too, because this is a subversion of the typical trope of the man saving the woman, but here it's the opposite, and for very, very good reasons. Dingji needs her help, and Dingji being there at all helps her by default. So what do we know because of this confession scene? Well, thinking it over and rereading it maybe a little too many times, support circle, I came to the conclusion that this isn't at all a straight-up confession scene, actually. This is just Assa revealing to Dingji she wants to support him, but nowhere are there the words love, because it takes two to tango, and Dingji needs to grow to like Assa and fall for her as well. In other words, I'm saying it is definitively on one side someone confessing how they feel to the other, but it is not a quote-unquote love confession. So yeah, this is probably the next step for Dingji as a character too. Realizing Assa is there to support him all the way, every way, all day. And through that support, he may grow fond of her in the same way she does of him, and thus begin to return those feelings to Assa. Still though, what we have here is a clear notice from Fujimoto that he plans to dive further into this relationship between the two over a longer period of time. I legit think at this point, just because of this moment, that Chainsaw Man Part 2 and the inevitable Part 3 may be much, much longer than we anticipated initially. More on that later in the video. But here's my favorite moment of any Chainsaw Man theory video, showing this beautiful image of Assa holding a bloody chainsaw with those narrowed, sharp eyes. Classic image. I'm sure we're all sick and tired of me bringing it up at this point. But don't worry, just like how I keep bringing up Rize, Kobeni, and Kishibe, I won't stop. I'm broken as fuck because of this series. But the fact that Fuji is so early setting this up in what I thought would be way later down the line in Part 3 says a lot. This means that from here on out, whatever happens to Asa Yoru, this will always be in their back pocket. And just what does it mean for Dingji's future? Lots of people think it could end in Dingji's death, while others, like myself, aren't convinced someone like Dingji can be so easily killed. This then gets into the Falling Devil. So, where in the hell do we go if Yoru can't hold a candle to falling? Not only that, but remember, her marching orders are to plunge humanity into an abyss of terror from the hollowed-out tummy herself, death. Well, I don't have a clue. I think one thing is true about Falling, though, is that she is the ultimate obstacle for Part 2. I recently did a fantastic deep dive into why this is here. You watch it, so to avoid repeating myself too much, please. But Falling is the obstacle that is in the way right now, and Dingji and Assa need to get past that, because Part 2 is a story about overcoming trauma and pursuing the things which bring you joy. So in this instance for Dingji, it is being a superhero and having a family, while for Assa, it is being happy with herself and finding a family to support her. Falling is the manifestation of their traumas in a devil, and thus needs to be defeated in some way. But after 208, I think more or less that Falling will never die, unless Death herself kills her, or she leaves, or Dingji eats her like a corn dog. I truly think that Falling is eternal in her current form, forever, and cannot be killed. Hence why Yoru's most powerful weapons besides Dingji couldn't defeat her. And the only thing that really can kill Falling is that which erases concepts, Pochita, aka Black Chainsaw Man, aka Corn Dog Demolisher. To simply put, Falling isn't going down without a fight, and I'm not sure they can even defeat her. So what's next? Well, it all revolves around Assa and Yoru. What in the hell comes next after this panel? My community has made it very clear they want that second health bar boss fight, and I think they are probably right. But what are the implications of it? Is this just a way to mirror Black Chainsaw Man by having Yoru's full persona take over in a blind rage wreaking havoc and being a part of what plunges humanity into the abyss of terror? Or does this scramble their brains even further, creating in essence a brand new person where Assa and Yoru are less divided and more unified and as one? Does it mean that Yoru is now dead, and Assa is the only one left alive from here on out and can use Yoru's powers willingly? Could it also mean that Yoru is out of commission for a long time, which makes Assa rely more on Dingji? Hell, does none of this even happen and Kobeni returns with Kishibe and Rize to save us all? The last one is probably a little bit unlikely, but I'm not really sure. It could be all of the above and none of the above, and I don't think we have enough to even really figure out what comes next. And we always know that Fujimoto probably has something else planned too, but what I do know is we have to keep up the hype and keep theorizing, because these 2 chapters essentially confirm to the community that we're on the right track and in the right headspace. All of our theories were in some way validated, so let's get that dialogue box open and start theorizing below. Where does Chainsaw Man go after Chapter 207 and 208? Let's get the Bento community to 11,000 subscribers. Join my Discord where we hang out, play games, watch stuff, and shoot the shot. Also, check out my Dawn to Dawn channel where we're on the road to 7,000 subscribers. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.